Today we're doing an AniLysis of Niec Rachel. I'll be doing them both, so after this video goes up in a few days, the next one will go up. I'm doing the AniLysis of Niec Rachel. Now, I wonder whether to do them both in the same one, but I thought it would be nice to split them into two separate videos. And we're going to do Niec Rachel first, because I did a poll recently asking you, who do you relate to more? And most of the people who watch this channel apparently relate more to Mean Rachel, so I thought I'd get the least popular out of the way. So, Niec Rachel. What is she? Who is she? Well, she looks like Rachel because she is physically exactly the same as Rachel. Same with Mean Rachel. But how did Niec Rachel come about? Let's find out. I climbed up over the lip of the pool, out into relative dryness. I focused my mind on morphing and began to wham! Something hit me hard. The starfish didn't have much in the way of pain sensors, but I still knew, the starfish knew, deep down, that it was very, very badly hurt. I tried to make sense of it all, but all I knew for sure was this. I had been able to count to 5 on my starfish legs. Now I could only count to 2. I was cut in half. Half a starfish lay unchanged in the tidal pool, 2 legs and a chunk of a third, and an earring. I caught a glimpse of the family, the 2 boys. One of them had a bucket and a shiny new steel spade. He'd been the one who'd cut me. He'd been the one who'd almost killed me. Rotten, filthy little brat. I'll kill him, I said. Kill him. Kill the filthy little creep. Morphed to grizzly bear and tear him apart. No, not the kid. Bailey. His fault. He delayed me. Otherwise it would have all worked perfectly. So to put that into context, Rachel has gone to a beach on some school thing and dropped her earring into a rock pool and gone in, morphed a starfish to go down and get it because, you know, this is impulsive Rachel and she's gone down to her base characteristics for the purpose of this book. And then a kid chops her in half with a spade and we're left with 2 halves of this starfish. Mean Rachel is the first to demorph, so that quote there was from Mean Rachel, or that particular part of the book was from Mean Rachel. So Niec Rachel, the one we're focusing on, was the second to demorph. Why? Because she was frightened to death of morphing and demorphing and all that sort of stuff. But we know that it's Mean Rachel, because Mean Rachel is very angry and goes mad. We'll cover that in the next video. Niec Rachel. What's her personality like? Well, here are some select parts of the book to explain. I finished demorphing. It was a terrifying, hideous experience, but the alternative was even worse. I demorphed in a total, panic. I wasn't even thinking, just screaming inside my mind, screaming and begging for it to be over. I rose from the rocks, so grateful to be fully human, so relieved. I saw the others, far off. I caught a glimpse of a blonde girl running away. I didn't recognise her. So from essentially one of the first paragraphs we hear from Niec Rachel, we immediately see that the blonde girl, by the way, is Mean Rachel running the other way. Again, Niec Rachel demorphed after Mean Rachel because she's much more indecisive. And we see a couple of clues in that first paragraph, what we're sort of getting ourselves into here. She's absolutely terrified. And for the rest of this book, she's terrified. What of? Well, practically everything that isn't shopping. So let's read some more quotes to get a better idea of who she is and maybe find out what she gets up to. The earring. There it was, stuck between my toes. Oh good, it was a cool earring really, not like some sort of stuff your parents might buy you. You know parents, right? Anyway, I ran back to the others too. I needed to be with, people. I needed to have familiar voices and faces around me. So scared. I was shaking. I was going to go on shaking forever. Was I insane? Why had I done something as reckless as morphing a starfish? And why had I been so mean to Bailey? All he'd wanted to do was compliment me. He just wanted to say he thought I was pretty. Why had I been so, harsh and stuck up? Later, I would have to find the time and the right way to apologise. Maybe if I went out on a date with him. Oh wait, no, that would hurt Tobias's feelings. I was sure it would. Are you okay, Rachel? A girl named Dahlia asked. Oh, does it show? I asked, pressing my hands against my face. Forget it, Dahlia said, looking disgusted. Why would I try to be nice to you? All I get is sarcasm. Oh, Dahlia, I said, reaching out for her. I'm sorry you feel that way. Really, I want to be friends. I really, really do. Dahlia made a face. You know, you were always stuck up, Rachel, but lately you're just this total, witch. She turned away and I felt hot tears flood my eyes. Why would she say that about me? I was being sincere. I really did want to be friends. That's a cute sweater, this girl named Elizabeth said. She was sitting next to me. Thanks. I got it at Abercrombie. It's like on sale. $42.50 marked down to $27.95. No way. Are you going to the mall after school? Okay, so I should go straight to meet Tobias after school. That's what I should do. I had promised. Only, did I want to go be with Tobias? Or did I want to go shopping? I'd already figured out what to say to Tobias to apologise. I had an obligation to Tobias, I realised. Yes, an obligation, but shopping was more fun than an obligation. So I've picked those select quotes just to give you a big overarching idea of who this character is, what she's like. She loves shopping. That's a given. She's, as I've said, very frightened of practically everything. One of the most prominent facets of her split personality here, though, is that she's extremely indecisive. She's always looking way far ahead. She's got absolutely no impulsivity, if that's a word, at all. Everything is a choice, and she can't choose between them. She's almost incapable of making choices. And everything has some reason to happen, but then a reason why something else should happen at the same time, and she just cannot put her mind to doing that. As we'll see in the Mean Rachel video, the opposite is true. And I needn't say that anymore because that's basically the same with everything with these two characters. So from now on, I'm hardly going to mention Mean Rachel unless it's in the context of something going on in the story. She's for the next video. Nice Rachel is a total pushover. And what you might have seen from a couple of those quotes as well is even her manner of speaking is different. She finishes a lot of sentences with like a question mark, and like she raises her tone of voice at the end of every sentence. She says like a lot too. She was like saying like a lot, like yeah. There are a lot of problems with book 32, The Separation, which I'm not going to go into here because that's not what this video is about. But I will just say that we never saw this. Rachel has never really talked like that, so why this split part of her personality starts talking like that is just confusing. And there are a lot of problems with that sort of stuff regarding this book, but again, that's not for this video. That's for the review of The Separation, which I did a while ago. Go check that out, the review of book 32, Separation, for more criticism. But anyway, let's move on. What is she like when it comes to fighting? Because after all, she is an animorph, sort of. Maybe. So what is she like when confronted? Well, we know what the normal Rachel is like. What's this one like? Suddenly, as I worked my way around the circular sail rack, I brushed into someone. Oh, sorry, I said. Sorry? It was some girl I didn't know. Kind of big. Bigger than me anyway. And she had, like, this angry look in her eyes. She looked me up and down, like she didn't like my looks. It scared me. I gulped. Get out of my way, she snapped, before I kick your skinny, preppy, mole-crawling, bubblehead blonde butt. Rachel, Cassie warned, let it go. You don't need to go postal over this. I felt the tears start. I bit my lip. Sorry, I said to the mean girl. I turned and ran away. I buried my face in my hands and ran. I stopped running when I found a bench outside Baby Gap. I just, sat there, all collapsed, trying to get a hold of myself. Cassie came running up. I looked up at her through blurry tears. She stood with hands on hips and a shocked expression on her face and looked down at me. Okay, she said, what have you done with Rachel? Complete pushover in a fight. That's what we learn. Pretty snappish. Which, we never really saw from the real Rachel. We never saw this cowardly side, but that's just what this book wanted to do, and that's what we're faced with in this book with our character that we're analysing, Nice Rachel. This girl that she comes up with who I don't know why they didn't just write Jessica in there. Remember my recent analysis on the girl Jessica from book 5? Basically the same frumpy dumply melon of a person. Might as well have just put Jessica back in, have a bit of continuity in there. But no, it's just a girl she didn't know. At least that's what we're told. But anyway, this is not an analysis about her. That'll probably be for a later date, because again, I'm covering everything in this series. No, Nice Rachel, that's what we're talking about, unfortunately. This is the part where we first start to see suspicion amongst the other members of the Animorphs, specifically here Cassie. Meanwhile, Mean Rachel's gone off with Tobias and similar sort of thing happens, but this is where the middle of the book starts to come in, and the two Rachels are going to be coming to meet the Animorphs, and the Animorphs begin to suspect and then try to do something about this character, this pointless, useless, scared of everything girl who, can't really do anything, is now completely ineffectual. So there are a couple more traits that come up throughout this book, and I'm just going to cover them now. The first one is when Nice Rachel meets her dad, calls him to the airport. When she's talking on the phone to bring him there, she shows that she really can't stay on topic, despite the importance of it. Come soon, okay? Can you come tomorrow? I have to talk to you about what you said before. Drugs? No, I searched for a way to tell him without committing the unpardonable sin of blurting it over the phone. Your cleaning lady, I said, trying to say it in a way so he'd know it wasn't really exactly about his cleaning lady. It's about, what you said about her. That she's from Ukraine? He got it. The code was working. Exactly. It's about Ukraine. Long pause. I'll be there tomorrow. He hung up. I hung up. Tomorrow, I would tell him everything. The Yerks, the Animorphs, the whole thing about Tobias being a hawk, and also me kind of liking him, and about there being two of me. He would know what to do. There are more parts in that conversation with her dad where Rachel trails off of that conversation, but I chose that quote because it showed another couple of things as well. This is the side of Rachel that will lie for a purpose that she's seeing in the far ahead, because remember, this is the planning Rachel. So she lies to her dad about why she wants to meet him, but then she's also so trusting that she's about to tell him everything about the war. And that's an unusual part of this book. So the Rachel that likes to plan ahead, see things in the future, is going to tell Dad. Surely that's a Mean Rachel thing, but again, whatever. Oh, for God's sake. But maybe that's because Nice Rachel is so fundamentally trusting of everybody. Or is it because soon enough we get a healthy dose of paranoia? We could go shopping, Cassie said with a bland smile. I'm sure my face lit up, but then I realised Cassie hated shopping, and meetings weren't exactly optional. She was testing me. This paranoia is sort of evident in the other Rachel as well. Again, the book is a bit confusing in that regard. There's a couple more aspects to Nice Rachel's personality that I'm just going to throw at you here before I go into what actually happens plot-wise regarding this character once we've got her personality out of the way. These two further quotes are once the Animorphs have met Nice Rachel and known her for long enough to be able to establish the finer details in her personality. I don't think Mean Rachel is capable of long-term thinking. Nice Rachel is, but she's not capable of short-term focus. Rachel busted in last night with no idea what to do, no plan. She was just reacting. But Nice Rachel laid out a shopping trip yesterday that was like a general planning an invasion. Duty? What was duty? What did it mean to me? Nothing. Only, it did mean something. To my surprise, it did. It was kind of weird, but down inside me, untouched by the split, I felt the word resonate. Mean Rachel got the courage. I got the sense of duty. My light just went out. See if I can put that on charge. I do find it strange how she's there thinking, what's duty? Oh yeah, that's duty. That's what I've got. It's just this book. I gave you a 4 out of 10, and I'm starting to regret that decision now, but whatever. So those are a couple of extra bits. She's got the sense of duty that the other Rachel doesn't have, and we discussed the long-term, short-term focus thing. So that is Nice Rachel in a nutshell, quite frankly. And part of the reason I didn't like this book very much is because it just gave Rachel these, right, this is her personality set, and it's now split into two people, so basically that's all her personality, there you go. And it really reduced her character to stereotypes. Essentially, Nice Rachel is a Cali girl, like blonde, rich kid sort of, you know the stereotype, I'm probably butchering it, but sort of walks around like that. Oh, a spider, that's like a spider, oh my god, I'm so scared. except actually terrified, you know. Just obsessed with clothes, hates confrontation, all that sort of naff stuff, and is crap at lying as well, hence the stuff on the phone to Dad. Okay, so let's cover what actually happens in this book. So she comes to see the Animorphs, and there's a whole thing about the anti-morphing ray because Eric's a dick, and the Animorphs have to decide what to do with nice and mean Rachel. But first, before we go into that, let's go into the fun part of when they meet these Rachels for the first time and speculate on what exactly happened, and we'll get to the bottom of it essentially. The first one to the barn, funnily enough, the first one to demorph was mean Rachel. The first one to get to the others is nice Rachel. Okay? Now, one thing I have noticed is that when it comes to identifying what these characters are like, nice Rachel always has to be interacting with other people, whereas mean Rachel's personality is largely from what's going on inside her head and her being on her own and doing her own thing. Probably deliberate. This nice Rachel has to be so social, which is probably why she got to the barn first, and that's where all this happens. Cassie looked at me. Rachel, tell me what you said to me about Marco on the way over here. What? What you said to me on the bus about Marco. You mean that he was, like, funny? Oh my, Jake whispered. Rachel, Cassie pressed. What do you think of Marco's looks? I shrugged. I smiled. He's, like, cute, all right. Marco sat down very suddenly, on the hay-strewn floor. Jake looked pale. This is unusual, Axe said in thought speak. She's being nice, Marco said, shaken. She said I was cute. She smiled at me. Axe, Jake said and shot the Andalite a look. Thwap! Faster than the human eye could see, Axe's tail whipped forward over his head. The long scythe blade stopped a millimetre from my throat. Yerk, Marco said. Has to be. They've infested her. No, Cassie said. If she was a controller, she'd sound exactly like Rachel. This is something different. A breakdown, maybe. I'd just like to say this is probably the funniest part of the book, this reaction to nice Rachel. But of course, this is the part where mean Rachel enters the fray. I stared. She stared. She was me. I was her. There are two of them, Jake said. They appeared to be identical, Axe said. Cool, Marco said, climbing to his feet. Now Tobias can have one and I can have the other. Ah! She leapt, landed on her hands, flew through the air and landed, feet first, against Marco's chest. Marco landed very hard on his back. Rachel was astride him, squatting on his chest. Her knees pinned his arms. She reached behind his head and grabbed a handful of his dark hair. The other hand was balled into a fist, quivering about 1/2 metre away from Marco's face. What did you say? Rachel whispered. Not one single thing, Marco said. Me? I said nothing. Starfish, they regenerate. You can chop off a leg and they can grow a new one. Somehow, when that starfish was chopped in half, the starfish's regenerative powers created the possibility of 2 separate Rachels, one in each half. But somehow the 2 halves are unequal, subtly different, Axe said. This is a very interesting phenomenon. The animals have quickly figured out what has happened. The next step is, what do they do? But they've also got this mission with the anti-morphing ray, and surely they need Rachel, so they try to do something. Although they do fail. So they send both Rachels home, and nice Rachel is attached to Bobo the bear, little Bobo the bear. And she's basically reverted to a childlike state. Now notice that as I went through this, going through to the end. She is basically reduced in age by 5 or 6 years. That's what her personality is, a child. And mean Rachel is understandably mean to her. They start arguing in their bedroom. The sisters tell Rachel to stop talking to herself, which is a bit strange. Bloody Rachel going schizophrenic in her room and they're just, stop talking on the phone, bitch! Whatever. So mean Rachel goes off, but nice Rachel stays at home. That's when nice Rachel decides, I'm going to call my dad and tell him everything. He'll be able to sort this problem out. Because nice Rachel is fretting about practically everything, and one of her biggest issues is that she doesn't understand how this mean Rachel girl was ever a part of her. And can she ever be around mean Rachel? Because yeah, they're the same person, but they're so different. And this is nice Rachel wondering how she could possibly live with mean Rachel. What was I going to do? How was I going to live with her? Not that it mattered what I thought or what I wanted. I mean, I was like helpless. She was the one who... I stopped breathing. Yeah, she was the one who would decide what was done. So what if she decided she didn't like sharing her life with me? Would she? Oh my god, I realised. Yes, she would. Cassie, Jake and Axe held her down to protect themselves and to protect this mad, rabid beast from injuring herself. I was crying, face in my hands, crying. She's not me, I wailed. She was never in me. But I knew the truth. My memories were all intact. I knew that this Rachel, this tortured, wild, vicious thing had been a part of me. The Animorphs come up with a really crappy plan, Jake, and they bring both Rachels... they bring... That last quote where they're holding down Rachel is where they decide we're going to take nice Rachel on this, but we're going to subdue mean Rachel and keep her in there, even though the plan is for her to eventually get out and come along to the mission. Stupid bloody book. No, I'm not going to do it. So, nice Rachel goes on this mission, and Jake is with her, so they split off into groups, and she's with Jake. Gets on top of this truck that's going to this Buyers Research Institute. And Jake's is like, you need to dwarf, and all that sort of stuff. And he forces her into doing these things by saying, you will die if you don't do this. So practically forcing her to morph and demorph. Go into this room where they're trapped in a jar. Whether this was planned out by Jake, I don't freaking know. I think it's just down to luck at this point. But this whole thing pans out that mean Rachel comes in after escaping from her restraints. Comes in, causes havoc, and they're forced into a position where they think Jake is dead and they have to work together to escape Visser 3. Great plan, Jake. Two people who are completely useless. You're gonna put them in front of Visser 3 and hope for the best. Whatever, I'm not here to criticise this book. But this is the point where, after a lot of crying, which Nice Rachel does in practically every other scene, she decides that she can work with mean Rachel. It's the vomit-inducing bit. And this is where she realised that it's going to happen. She looked like she was fighting something inside her own head. Then. So what do we do? Both my eyes opened. Mean Rachel was asking me what to do? Asking me? Me? It all comes down to mean Rachel knowing that she can't think of a plan, so she turns to nice Rachel, says, what's your plan then? Come on then, I need it. This... yeah, it's a crap plot, but it's all about both these Rachels saying, you know, actually there's a part of that personality that I need. I keep thinking this is such a shit plot, but it's not about that this time. But yeah, that's where it turns out to be. They both think, oh, we need each other. Yay! So, nice Rachel goes and cries in Hawk-Bajir Morph in the forest. And then Jake comes along and says, aha, fooled you. This was the plan all along. And so they say, all right, we'll go back together. How are they going to do it? Well, they speculated earlier. We would require enormous amounts of power, Axe said. And the two Rachels would have to agree. And there would be a definite possibility that both halves of Rachel would die in the process. So that was given to us earlier in the book. So that was what they had to do. And now that they've both agreed, we can get on with gluing them back together. Assuming that was the plan. Turns out the plan actually involves Eric breaking character by inducing pain upon them. I reached a trembling hand to touch her bare shoulder lightly. Mean Rachel looked at me with contempt in her half smile. Then she reached for my shoulder and gripped it hard. You must begin the acquisition at the same time, Axe instructed. Count of 3, Cassie said. 1, 2, 3. I began to acquire my twin. Her DNA flowed into me as mine flowed into her. I felt the soft listlessness of the acquiring trance. Eric moved swiftly, smoothly. He dropped his hologram and appeared as the slightly canine-looking android we knew as the real Eric. Sorry, Eric said. Then, ah! The pain was indescribable. Both halves of me twitched and jerked and seized. Every nerve ending exploded with energy. I couldn't hear, couldn't think. My eyes were blinded by a sizzling halo of light. And that's that. That's practically the end of the book. That's where nice Rachel integrates back into the full Rachel. There are suspicions that this part of the book had consequences later down the line that isn't actually told to us. But that's for an Annie Theory video another day, which hopefully we might get to soon. So that is nice Rachel. She's only in this book, unless you believe those Annie theories. And what let's just summarise her. Cries a lot, likes shopping, doesn't like confrontation, is a complete wuss, and has a California girl tone. She has a bear called Bobo, and she's basically a 5-year-old version of herself without any of the edginess that we know of Rachel. That's Nice Rachel, just half of Rachel's personality chalked into one being. Yeah, not my favourite character. But next time we'll look at Mean Rachel and we'll round off this twin AniLysis episode thing. So I hope you enjoyed this episode. Join me again for the next episode. It's either going to be a Wednesday or a Saturday. The next Wednesday or Saturday after this. Also, I've forgotten to do this. Yeah, I forgot to charge my light bulb. I forgot to change the calendar. I forgot everything. But I didn't forget Nice Rachel, unfortunately. So join me for the next episode where we'll talk about Mean Rachel. Thank you very much for watching, and I shall see you next time. Ta-ra.